They have like the chill poets, and then they have the department for the tortured ones. We could all be English majors right now in the tortured poets department, or we could all be a jury in a trial about a tortured poet, or conceptually investigating the concept of a tortured poet. Extrapolating this out from the people involved, is it possible to love a tortured person, a tortured poet? Do they have the ability to love? Do they maybe not notice when you have storms in your eyes? All valid questions. This song title is like very dramatic, which honestly, as an Aries, I respect and I like it. As a Virgo rising, I'm gonna analyze the hell out of it. So let's do that. Hi everyone. Taylor Swift's 11th studio album, The Tortured Poets Department, will be released on April 19th, 2024. When I was watching the Grammys, not watching the Grammys, but when I heard that Taylor announced something at the Grammys, I was certain it was gonna be Reputation, Taylor's version. But it wasn't. She just casually announced that she had a brand new album. I love that for her and for us. Honestly, I feel like Taylor should chill because I still haven't finished analyzing Folklore that came out like 4 years ago now. I have like a lot to do. I have a lot on my Taylor Swift to-do list for this channel. We're just gonna add a lot more to it. Thanks, Taylor. I'm going to be doing a mini series on this album before it's even released. In this video today, we are going to be analyzing the album name, The Tortured Poets Department, and that's it. This is going to be a 4-part series. Here are the other 3 videos you can expect. 1 analyzing the album imagery, 1 analyzing the released lyrics. Finally, I will be doing a video analyzing the track list and just doing some predictions. That one is going to be really random and fun because I don't know what she's going to do. Tell me your predictions about this album below. Tell me how shook you've been. And also check out my Taylor Swift analysis playlist below. I have over 45 Taylor Swift analyses so far, and I also analyze different artists on this channel. You guys, we have like a lot to do, so we should probably start doing them. Everything I'm analyzing is based on the information we have. We of course have not heard the songs yet, so all of this is subject to change once the album is released. I am sensing a juxtaposition within the song title. For me, the concept of a poet and the concept of like a department are opposing. I'm gonna explain that in just a second. What I'm gonna do first is look at the diction in this album name, and we're gonna break down each word, even the word the, because it's an important word, believe it or not. Let's talk about the concept of a tortured poet, because it actually is a trope. The tortured poet, the tortured artist, the starving artist. A tortured artist is like a stock character and a stereotype who is in constant torment due to frustrations with art, other people, or the world in general. This trope is often associated with mental illness. Tortured artist trope reminds me of like 2014 Tumblr. It's very much an identity and it reinforces an emotional and a mental state. There exists a belief system where the more troubled someone is or the more depressed someone is, the more beautiful the art that they produce will be. And listen, I think there is something to that argument. Taylor herself has touched upon this conversation before. This was in her NPR Little Desk session where she expressed her concern about being in a happy relationship. She was concerned that her creativity will be stifled because she was happy. I think when people are going through things and they're going through difficult times, they may need an outlet more than they do when they're content and happy. When someone needs an outlet, not wants one, but desperately needs one to be able to survive, they're gonna be putting in more of their energy and their creative thought into like artistic projects if they're an artistic person. I also do think that people who maybe like going through some emotional things or mental health things, some of them may want to try to make sense of it, and perhaps art is the medium through which they want to understand or express what they're feeling. These are just some assumptions I'm making, right? I'm not trying to speak for every single person who is an artist or who identifies as a tortured artist. There are many different vantage points to this conversation. Creativity has often been coupled with mental or emotional distress. It's kind of like people who are like complicated or maybe who are going through like a mental or emotional time, like a difficult mental or emotional time, you may view them as like having a greater depth of understanding because they see all of the bad things in the world. They understand and see through people and the masks they put on. So we may view them as more intelligent. And I think there is something to be said about that. I think a lot of people that are logical maybe do view things in a more like realistic way. And that realism, although factual and logical, is not like the cutest. So I think that sets a foundation for someone to maybe be going through more difficult moments in life. There is a lot of darkness associated with a tortured artist, or in this case, a tortured poet. Someone who's a tortured poet may just literally have depression or other mental health and emotional health struggles that's chronic throughout their life. Maybe it's for a time period in their life due to external circumstances. I'm not trying to downplay emotional health and mental health at all. I'm only touching upon it because it's an imperative part of this trope. And just as a PSA, mental health and emotional health are not things to be taken lightly. There is also a conversation about this stereotype about how it romanticizes mental illness. And I think it can. Honestly, I think when something is romanticized or looked on with intrigue, it can kind of subconsciously suggest to people that it's okay to remain in a state where you would be considered a tortured artist or a tortured poet, perhaps maybe causing people not to try to heal themselves or to get better out of the dark mental and emotional state they're in. Again, these are generalizations. Sometimes when you're in those dark states, you can't help yourself, right? I'm not a psychologist. I'm not trying to comment on people's lives, but there are two conversations to this trope. One of intrigue that views this trope with high regard, and there's also a conversation where this trope is criticized because it romanticizes something that is unhealthy. For me personally, I am somewhere in the middle in regards to this trope. And keep in mind, we're extrapolating this out from the album right now. I'm just talking about the diction right now. I do think some people really channel dark emotions into very beautiful works of art. I personally don't gravitate towards a lot of dark vibes. I personally just like chill vibes that are cute, but I don't personally view it in like a romantic way. It's more like a tragedy to me that someone is a tortured artist because they have the ability to create things of such beauty, but they have to suffer for that beauty. And that is like poetic, but like, I think it's poetic for everyone to be cute and happy too. Like if you're like a very good artist and a very good poet, you can make happiness and chillness and vibes and cuteness angsty in like a positive way, honestly. I want to talk about the word department next because I view this as a juxtaposition. When I think about a tortured artist or a tortured poet, you think about abstract things, you think about internal struggle, lots of intangible feelings and emotions. A department is like representing an institution. Artistry and an institution with rules and regulations and like a corporate culture, they are in direct opposition to one another, opposing energies. It kind of makes the artistry feel stifled when it has to exist within a department. Let's define department first because there's actually a lot that I want to say about this. A department can be defined as a division of a large organization, such as a government, a university, a business, or shop, dealing with a specific subject, commodity, or area of activity. Example is like the English department of a university, or maybe the investigative department or unit of like a police station, like the detectives. The reason I bring up those two examples is because those are the two ways in which we can interpret department here. This can be a department of tortured poets. They just like have a department. So they have like the chill poets and then they have the department for the tortured ones. Or this could be like an investigative unit about tortured poets in your life, or an investigative unit as to why someone becomes a tortured poet. I say that because of the album imagery, which I will do a separate video on. There's like a manila folder within the lyrics that are released, which I will also analyze in a separate video. We have the word evidence. There's a lot of diction suggesting an investigation of sorts. It's kind of like dissecting something, right? You're trying to figure something out. We could all be English majors right now in the tortured poets department, or we could all be a jury in a trial about a tortured poet, or conceptually investigating the concept of a tortured poet, which our protagonist may be, or the love interest of the album may be. Interesting to consider, in my opinion. Here are some other things that I think about in regards to the word department. Okay, like department stores and shopping, obviously, but that has nothing to do with this video, unfortunately. I wish it did. We could all just like go shopping together and talk about this. Anyways, department is part of something bigger, right? This opposes the concept of an artist. When I think of an artist, I often think about someone in isolation, especially if they are a tortured artist or poet. I want to talk about the word the because it's really important as well. The word the makes this department specific. It's not just a random tortured poets department, it is the tortured poets department. It's a specific one. Two ways to take this word. The first way could just signify the importance of this department and how singular it is. This is something that's very serious. It kind of puts this metaphorical department on a pedestal and tells us to focus on it. It's the one. It's very official. Or it could be referring to a specific thing that a lot of people are talking about. Okay, we all know that Taylor had a breakup towards the beginnings of the Eras tour. And listen, I don't really like to talk about Taylor's personal life. Very respectfully, I do not care as much. I care about Taylor as an artist. I don't really care about like who she's dating, but it's come to the point where it's important to discuss these sorts of things because they impact how the body of work is interpreted. And one reason that I'm not shying away from this conversation is because of a lyric in one of the 1989 Vault tracks where Taylor sang "Blue Dress on a Boat." That was in reference to a photo of Taylor wearing a cute blue dress, looking very emo on a boat after Harry Styles reportedly and allegedly broke up with her. She knows that we know what photo that is, and she knows that we know what the story around that photo was. That was a very specific reference of something that she's aware the public has knowledge of. That to me indicates that Taylor perhaps wants us to talk about who these songs are about, or she wants us to know. She's not taking steps to hide it. She is literally telling us. That's why I am not shying away as much as I used to from talking about the people in Taylor's life. Everything I say is speculation and alleged, like I'm not psychic. But we all know that Taylor had a breakup with Joe Alwyn. And apparently there are like a bunch of articles talking about how Joe Alwyn is in a group chat with Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott called the Tortured Man Club. There is literally an article title that states this. I'm going to read the article title. Joe Alwyn and Paul Mescal have a group chat called the Tortured Man Club. It's from May 9th, 2022. This group chat was also talked about in like another article. It's very random and very specific. Could this be a reference to that? Yes, it could. Do I want it to be a reference to that personally? No, I don't. I would rather just have things be metaphorical and mysterious because I think that's just more creatively like satisfying. I like there to be a little bit of ambiguity. However, I think this could be a reference to that. This could potentially be very pointed and very intentional. We know that Taylor is very detail-oriented and she is very self-aware. She knows that there are articles about this. She knows that the public is aware of the fact that this exists. And also, I just remembered this. Didn't the remix of Antihero that Jack Antonoff did mention a tortured artist? Okay, hold on. I need to look this up. I didn't even think about this. Okay, Siri, Jack Antonoff, Antihero remix lyrics. She wasn't even listening to me. Jack Antonoff, Antihero remix lyrics.
I found this on the web.
Bless. Okay, let's see what it says. So Jack Antonoff's verse says, oh no, he didn't say that. He said, sometimes I feel like everybody is an art bro lately, and I just judge them on the hill. Too hurt to hang out talking crap about your famous baby. It potentially, allegedly, possibly, I'm using a lot of conditional language here. This could be in line with that because an art bro, an artist, talking crap about your famous baby, negative connotation, negative emotions, perhaps tortured. Okay, I didn't plan to talk about that, but it's just something that I thought of. But I don't know, interesting. Okay, potentially was this ex talking crap about their famous baby in this group chat? I don't know. One thing I do want to note is that this album name refers to a tortured poet specifically. We can think of Taylor as a poet. She's a lyricist. She's a wordsmith. Literally go listen to the Lakes.mp3. But she has dated people who have existed within the arts, right? She has dated actors. You know, acting is part of the performing arts. And don't forget, Joe Alwyn did co-write songs on Folklore and Evermore. And also on Midnights, he was a writer on Sweet Nothing. So we can think of him as a poet. And she's dated other people in the music space as well. She's dated musical artists. So The poets in this title could be referring to Taylor. It could be an introspective sort of investigation, or it could be more of a retrospective into the type of person she's dated. If we look at her life now, the person that she's currently with is not someone who works within the arts, right? It's someone who is an athlete. And this is not to say that people are one-dimensional. Just because someone's an athlete does not mean that they are not artistic, and vice versa. If someone is artistic does not mean that, they don't have athleticism. But this could be an investigation into the types of people this protagonist was interested in and involved with in the past. They were all perhaps one type of tortured poet. Or maybe this is more of an introspective sort of investigation where the protagonist here, inspired by Taylor, acted as a tortured poet or had an identity of a tortured poet. Again, we haven't heard the album, so there's really no way to tell yet, but it's really interesting to consider this. Let me know if you have a perspective about this down below in the comments. Let's go back to what I actually had planned. I just have a lot of screenshots of people talking about this group chat, so it's very much in the media. Everything we just analyzed, like the juxtaposition and the trope, it could all be valid, or this could all literally just be a reference to that group chat that Taylor Swift's ex was in. If so, this album is probably potentially very much inspired by that relationship, which we know ended. Some may say it's petty, some may say it's putting her in a position of power. I don't really have that much of an opinion about it, honestly. I just think it is showcasing the emotion behind the breakup, if this is actually a reference to that. I'm sensing there was a betrayal of sorts if that happened. And if it's that group chat, does it involve the friends of the ex? Is it having to do specifically with the people in that chat, or just the fact that that was the name of the chat, and maybe how the protagonist now sees the ex after the breakup is over? Extrapolating this out from the people involved, is it possible to love a tortured person, a tortured poet? Do they have the ability to love? Are they able to love you in the way that you need to? Do they maybe not notice when you have storms in your eyes? All valid questions. All right. To sum up, this song title, to me, it's a juxtaposition. We have the intangible, more ethereal connotation of an artist, a more dark connotation of a tortured artist, a tortured poet. We're bringing in some darkness with the word tortured. We talked about that trope. We have that juxtaposed with a department, which is very official and kind of feels sterile in comparison. We have that juxtaposition existing with a qualifier, the word the, which brings importance into this department. I talked about the two ways we can interpret a department, as being a department of tortured poets or being a department investigating tortured poets. And then we talked about the more personal aspect of this song and how it could be a direct reference to the ex-lover of this artist. And by artist, I mean Taylor Swift. Let me know what you think about this. Join the conversation. I really want to know what you guys think. This is kind of exciting because we haven't heard the songs yet, so there's just a lot of avenues to go down and to think about. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you as always for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time. Bye! All this analyzing has chapped my lips, so #self-care.